there, I hope that you're having a great day today. My name is Kelly and I'm coming on here to talk to you about meditation. So there are all different types of meditation and there is no wrong way to meditate. So most people are familiar with, still or silent meditation where you're seated in lotus position and, you've got your hands like so in what's called a mudra actually, and you're just sitting there with eyes closed. Well, that is one type of meditation, but it's not the only type of meditation. There are numerous different types and there are also numerous benefits. So for example, improved sleep quality. And in fact, I'm just gonna run through a list of a few things that meditation is good for, and then I'll get into a little bit more of the details of it. But better sleep, calmer mind, greater focus, multitasking, productivity and performance at work, improves memory, lowers blood pressure, boosts immunity, increases gray matter in the brain, which is the healthy matter that we want, and reduces fear in the amygdala, which is a part of the brain that processes fear response and stress, releases stress, reduces tension, anxiety, depression, reduces physical pain. And one of the ways that it does that is actually producing less inflammatory markers called cytokines in the body. It lowers cortisol and other stress hormones. Cortisol in particular is really bad for having excess weight around the midsection, which is the dangerous kind. It's called visceral fat that we get around our organs, whereas the stuff that's dimply and maybe on thighs and other places is not necessarily popular, but it's not dangerous like the stuff around the midsection and the organs can be. It also lowers the risk of depression. It increases creativity and creative problem solving. It increases self-awareness so that you can be aware of when you're going into, for example, a self-defeating spiral behavior, anything like that. It's also good for helping improve addictions. Additionally, it's great for overall feelings of health and wellness. So basically, these are ancient practices. People have been meditating for millennia. And, every other week we have another study or report, or fMRI or EEG or whatever type of means of study that's proving how wonderful and beneficial meditation is to the body, mind, and soul. So just to touch on a few things, I'm just looking at my notes here because I've got specific stats and I want to make sure that I give them to you accurately. So in a 2017 survey by Gallup, 79% of adults admitted that they feel stressed sometimes or frequently. So that's a pretty substantial percentage of the population. Additionally, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health recognized that nearly 18 million American adults practice meditation on a regular basis. And so, of course, I'm in Canada, my American neighbors to the south doing this, but it's also something that, of course, is done all over the world. So additionally, just continuing to move along here, it improves sleep. So one study compared mindfulness meditation programs with people who were meditating, found that they stayed asleep longer, they had better sleep quality, and less severity of insomnia than those in the other controlled group. Also, it can help you from keeping that, kind of monkey mind, if you will, or racing mind that doesn't ever shut down. Meditation is another way to be able to calm that so that you are able to sleep better, and it puts your body in a more peaceful and relaxed state so that that is more conducive to sleep, as opposed to, for example, what happens is that we're trying to quiet an overactive mind or brain, but also we're trying to quiet the body. So the central nervous system is run by the brain, and if the brain never shuts down, then the body doesn't either. So you may have heard that terminology of fight or flight. Well, the problem is that that's a stress response. So it comes back to when we weren't at the top of the food chain and either we had to, in a moment, use all of the calories in our body to fight, to defend ourselves for survival, or to flee also for survival. Whereas now, obviously, we're at the top of the food chain. We don't need to worry about that. We are safe, but the body doesn't recognize that to be the case. So when we get stressed, even what may be perceived as a moderate stress, it has a physiological effect on the body. Now, a lot of people say that, oh, I can't meditate, I get distracted, I think of everything else, I can't even keep my mind focused for 10 seconds. Well, guess what? That's normal. It happens to almost everyone. Certainly from my own personal experience, when I started meditating a number of years ago, I would get maybe 10 seconds before I would think, oh, I got to add this to the grocery list. Oh, call so-and-so back. Oh, there's a load in the washing machine. Don't forget to flip it to the dryer. Or whatever other thought that wasn't a meditative thought. Now, that's normal. It's going to happen. Or you might just space out altogether and not even be thinking about it. That's also normal and absolutely fine. So basically, you just need to recognize, that's the whole self-awareness piece, that you've strayed, or that you've fallen asleep, or which can happen too, or spaced out, and just recognize, hey, oops, okay, it happened, and then just bring it back to focus so that you're remembering what your intention was, because intention is really important in a meditation. It's kind of like asking a friend to drive you somewhere, but not telling them where you want them to bring you. So it's really hard for that person to take you where you want to go if they don't know where that is. The same is true of meditation. If you don't have a very clear intention or outcome that what you're looking to get out of the meditation, then it's hard to receive that. So that's, just, and the intention can be anything. It can be, I want to release stress, tension, anxiety in the body, or I want to be sharper at work, I want to sleep better, whatever you want it to be. And there's no limit to what you can ask either. You can ask for as many things as you like, and you can also ask for other people. So for example, you can ask for family, friends, anyone you desire. And basically, just like anything else, the more you practice, like any skill, the better it's going to get. I mean, think when you were first learning how to drive, you were checking all of the mirrors, and, if for those of you who drive standard like I do, you'd be, okay, 2,500 RPMs and shift, whereas, after you learn and you get that under your belt, then more or less you're driving as an automaton. You don't think about when you shift gears anymore. You just feel the car or listen to the sound or whatever. You're not consciously looking in all of your mirrors because you've already learned those skills. Basically, they become part of what's called your subconscious brain, and that will be in another episode, not this one, where I'll talk about the conscious versus the subconscious, which is kind of like David and Goliath, if you will, because the conscious brain is only 5%, which is the part you're meditating with, working against the 95% of the subconscious, which is the habit brain. So if you think about it, what you're looking to do in meditation is you're looking to use that 5% to be aware of what's going on, and also aware of your thoughts. So like I said, greater focus, attention to detail, all of those things. So it helps the aging brain. So a UCLA study found that long-term meditators had better preserved brains than that of non-meditators as they aged. And so, for example, people who had been meditating for 20 years had greater gray matter volume in the brain, which is, like I said, the healthy part of the brain that we want to have grow. Although older meditators still had some age-related volume loss compared to younger meditators, compared to the non-meditator group of older adults, they had a significant improvement. So that's quite remarkable. And there are different ways to help to keep you from getting distracted when you meditate. So one of them is a mantra, which Om, for example, is a mantra you've probably heard, along with, what I'm doing with my hand is actually called a mudra. So the mantras are the vocal, which is a sound, a word, or a phrase that you keep repeating over and over again. Or you might have seen a mala, also called a rosemary, where there are a bunch of beads, and generally speaking there are 54, and you'd go do, around the one way and then back to deal with the 108 chakras of the body that we can work with in getting into your meditation, if you will. That's a mantra. And a mudra, like I mentioned, is a hand position. So it's kind of like hand yoga, if you will. And there are a various assortment of different mudras. This is probably the one you're most familiar with, like I said, that in lotus position on the knee and what have you. But there are many. There are some for all of the principal chakras. There are some for strength, knowledge, completion, wholeness, fearlessness. I mean, they're endless. There are all kinds of them. And basically what it's designed to do is to work with the chi or ki or prana, mana, nadis, energetic meridians. I mean, there are all kinds of different names, chakras, depending upon, what discipline you're talking about, but basically they're all talking about the same thing, and that's the bioenergy or bioelectricity that's present in our organic computer. So we're working with those energies, and if they're blocked, then it can in fact create itself as a physical ailment, even if it's only something in the brain. And to give a little bit of science background to that, there's a gentleman, the exact name is escaping me at the moment, but a medical doctor who was doing MRI scans, and they were showing various different parts of the body that were an issue, but the parts that relate to those parts of the body in the brain. So he was showing an abnormality or a tumor or whatever type of negative representation in the physical tissue was being present, and he was watching it under, MRI machine where it's, moving and flowing and what have you, and he's able to see it, watching it diminish over time as they start dealing with that part of the body that's blocked in the brain. And the brain basically controls the whole body. So if this is deciding that it wants to put you down, make you feel lousy, if it's deciding that you're going to be distracted or whatever, it's kind of the one that's in charge. So once we can start to train the brain, and meditation is kind of like, weightlifting for the body, but for the brain. And you might have heard of Lumosity or various other different programs that help you to train your brain, keep it sharp. Sudoku is another one, or there are various different like Tetris puzzles and all kinds of stuff like that. But the point is that you're doing things to engage the brain, to make the brain healthier, stronger, and more fit, just like you would with your body. So continuing on, so there are multiple different meditation styles, and they can improve memory and mental quickness. Also, it can partially improve with dementia for older adults, or those who have been really unfortunate and suffered from it earlier in life. Also, it rivals the effects of antidepressants, and it's great for anxiety, depression, stress, tension of all kinds. So at Johns Hopkins last year, they were doing a study on the relationship between mindful meditation and the ability to reduce the symptoms of depression, anxiety, and pain. And so the researcher Madhav Goyal and his team found that the effect size of the meditation was 0.3, which might not sound like a big number, but when you consider that antidepressants have the exact same level of efficacy, I'm pretty sure most of us would like to stay away from the pharmaceuticals and do something natural if we can that's going to have the same benefit. Yes, please. So that's brilliant. Additionally, mental and physical stress can increase levels of cortisol, like I mentioned earlier, and the cortisol is that not so great hormone that creates fat around the midsection, like we talked about before, or the cytokines, which are the inflammatory markers in the body, increasing pain, inflammation, all of those things. So also, one of the really good things, aside from the fact that it reduces inflammation, which for all of us, that's brilliant, but it's not something that you need to be doing for a long time at once or over a prolonged period of your life. For example, one of the other studies talked about 20 years of meditation, but that's an awfully long time. I mean, some of us either, are maybe, just over 20, or who knows, maybe under 20, and haven't had that much experience with it. It doesn't matter. Most of the studies are actually only 8 weeks, and they've proven that even as short as 2 weeks of meditation, and the study talks about 13 minutes a day, is beneficial. And a lot of these studies also talk about the fact that not only is it beneficial during the 8 weeks, which you're doing something. Previously, we thought 21 days make a habit. We've since learned it's in fact 60 days that make a habit. So that's true of this as well. So you've got the 2 months in there. Now, not only did it improve their sleep, their clarity, their memory, their mental focus, their ability to perform on neuropsychological tests, which they had a baseline before and then after the meditation. So, I mean, that's a huge factor right there that, it significantly improved it. And this is something that even if they stop meditating after the first 8 weeks of the sample group session that they were part of, the benefits continued for years after the fact. So if you think about it, short-term pain for long-term gain really applies in this case, that if you can, find even that 5 minutes a day to meditate, then that's going to make a difference. And, the old proverb, Confucius says that, if you don't have 5 minutes to meditate every day, then you need 20, which is basically saying you haven't given yourself any time. You haven't made yourself a priority for your own health and well-being. And mental health is a big part of overall health as well. So additionally, it's also talked about, or has proven, that it helps with inflammatory or stress-related conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, post-traumatic stress disorder, fibromyalgia, which I have, and in fact, as a long laundry list of many things, one of the things that I've been diagnosed with, and since I've been meditating, it's been far better than it was before that, and it actually helps. And additionally, people experienced fewer negative thoughts in response to viewing negative images compared with those in a control group after meditating. So another, if you want to talk about looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, so to speak, this is another means of adjusting your perspective to be able to help as well. So continuing along. So in 2011, Sarah Lazar and her team at Harvard found that mindfulness meditation can actually change the structure of the brain. So there's a kind of a subculture, if you will, of meditation that's called mindfulness-based stress reduction, or MBSR as the acronym. And it was found to increase cortical thickness in the hippocampus in the brain, which governs learning and memory. So that alone, it's improving your memory and your capacity to learn new information, which is huge. So there were also decreases in brain cell volume in the amygdala, which is the part responsible for fear, anxiety, and stress. Also, in a study of 153 adults who used the mindfulness meditation app for 2 weeks, they experienced reduced feelings of loneliness, increased social contact than those from the controlled group. So I already talked about how it reduces pain, improved quality of life, depression, and people with depression with chronic pain, where often those can be connected, where someone who's suffering from depression can actually feel all kinds of different types of physical pain within their body. So it helps with that as well. And meditators and non-meditators experience the same causes of pain, but the meditators showed a greater ability to cope with the pain and experienced a reduced sensation of pain. So you think about that, same pain stimulus, but just better able to handle it. It can also decrease blood pressure. So what happens is it's reducing the strain on the heart. So high blood pressure makes the heart work harder to pump, and as it's doing so, it can lead to poor heart function if it's being affected by things like atherosclerosis, which is basically the narrowing of the arteries. So, blood has a harder time getting through, which can lead to heart attack and stroke and things that we don't want to think about, but they can be avoided or prevented. It also controls blood pressure by relaxing the nerve signals that coordinate the heart function, blood vessel tension, and the fight or flight response that I talked about earlier as well, in increasing alertness in stressful situations. So also for people who are already suffering from higher blood pressure, it showed that it helped their numbers come way down. So huge benefit if you know anyone who's got high blood pressure. And just a few days of training, like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be a prolonged period of meditation, can help, which is fantastic. And they actually did baseline tests on a verbal reasoning section of the GRE tests, that the scores were increased a 16 percentile point range. So if you think about it, from any test that you've taken at any point in your life, how would you like to do something pretty simple and easy to improve your score by 16%? I can't speak for you, but I'd definitely be on board with getting a better score. Additionally, it helps reverse patterns in the brain that contribute to mind wandering, worrying, and poor attention. And so what they say is, like I mentioned earlier, 13 minutes a day to enhance the memory after only 8 weeks of doing so, if you can commit to that. And people who listen to meditation tapes improved attention and accuracy while completing tests as compared to the other control group. So like I mentioned, it already helps to decrease anxiety with the MBSR that I talked about earlier. And John Kabat-Zinn of the University of Massachusetts Center for Mindfulness talks about how that works on a physical and a mental level, and reducing that anxiety. And just to give that percentage point, they talked about reducing anxiety by 40%. That's a huge percentage to be able to reduce your anxiety by. I mean, think about that. So also, it's great for addiction, believe it or not. So with it being pitted, mindfulness training that is being pitted against the American Lung Association's Freedom from Smoking program, FFS, people learned mindfulness way. They were more likely to have quit smoking, many times more likely to have quit smoking by the end of the training. Additionally, another study had 60 people who were receiving treatment for alcohol use disorder. Basically, they were experiencing, alcoholism and having difficulty with that. And with practicing meditation, it actually lowered the levels of stress, psychological distress, alcohol cravings, and alcohol use for 3 months afterwards, which is huge if you can think about it. And especially I was listening to a study that apparently consumption of alcohol and cannabis and various different substances have gone up since everything has kind of gone crazy with the pandemic and whatnot, that people are consuming more of those. In fact, 25% more of whatever substance is their, poison of choice, so to speak. Additionally, mental health, there was another stat that was reported on, I believe it was CTV News, that mental health, as those who are willing to admit it, has gone up 63% since all of this started. So obviously, significant social isolation and, fear and all of these other things that have been basically tearing away at our physiology and making us sicker. So meditation can help with that too. It can also help you with not just things like alcohol and drugs or smoking, but it can also help you with food cravings. And it was actually shown to help control emotional and binge eating on top of that. So, which is also, spiked since all of this went down. But basically the bottom line is that it's beneficial. You can do it anywhere. You don't need any equipment to do it. And they're all different types of meditation, and there's no wrong type. So there's, like I mentioned at the beginning, the silent, still type where you're in lotus pose and you've got the, fingers in a mudra. There's also dancing and going for a walk. According to Under Armour, even a 10-minute walk is great for helping clear away kind of the cobwebs, if you will, in the brain and help you think more clearly. Nature bathing is another form of meditation where you basically just kind of go out in nature and you listen to the wind rustling through the leaves and, smell that the air smells different and earthier and richer within the forest. And, that you have to be more mindful of where you're stepping so that you're not, turning an ankle on a rock or a root or, whatever has come along the trail. And in fact, in Korea and Japan, they actually have specifically guided nature bathing trails, and it's called Shinrin-yoku. And there's a lot of research by the University of Massachusetts to corroborate all of that as well, which now kind of in the Western world we're just getting on board with. And a lot of medical doctors are actually prescribing nature bathing or exercise as a means of another form instead of prescribing an antidepressant, or in some cases another antidepressant. So like I said, there are a whole bunch of different ways to do it. The mantra, when you're repeating a sound, word, or phrase over again. Mudras, which are, different hand positions. The one I'm doing right now, just tapping from baby finger to index finger, is all about keeping your energy within your body. So that's part of it as well. But like I said, there's no wrong way to meditate. Listening to music, there's all kinds of science behind what music can do for the brain and body, and to, help you focus. Heck, it can even make you drive faster, be more responsive as a person suffering from Parkinson's and physical, limitations. Really, the benefits are endless. And like I said, it's helping you at a physical level, a mental health level, and also at a spiritual level where, you can kind of be in that peaceful, calm state. So I hope this has given you some information about meditation, its benefits, and perhaps you will engage in your own meditation practice. And like I said, even just a few minutes at a time in order to just basically weight train for the brain. And since this is what runs the body, I don't know about you, but I want to keep this as fit as possible so it keeps running the rest of this for as long as possible. So all the best, and wishing you nothing but relaxed, calm, peaceful meditation of any type that suits you. From me, Kelly, and from Reiki Releases. Much love and kindness. Talk soon. Bye-bye.